Hi, I'm CP, welcome to Bespoke Unit, and in this video I'm reviewing the Gilberto Oliva Reserva. Why did I say it like that? As per usual, this review will be conducted using the Bespoke Unit Cigar Formula, a quantifiable review matrix that you can use at home. Head into the description where you'll find a link which will teach you how to use it as well as provide you with blank PDF versions. Otherwise, these cigars have spent the last 3 weeks in the Boveda acrylic humidor that you can see behind me. I use 69% Boveda packs and I monitor them with a Boveda Butler. The Gilberto Oliva brand from Oliva Cigars was originally named Facunda Oliva when it was released, but unfortunately encountered a copyright dispute with Bacardi given their existing use of the name. Given that it was named after Gilberto's father, they decided to then name it after Gilberto Sr., who was the patriarch of the family at the time. It's produced at the Tabacalera Oliva de Nicaragua, also known as Tabilosa. The method employed is what seems to be an accordion bunching style. It's hecho made by hand, of course. The blend is actually an interesting change from the usual Oliva formula, which tends to favour Nicaraguan puros. In this case, they've opted for an Indonesian Sumatra wrapper, which yields very different results in the flavour profile, and there is an Ecuadorian binder as well. As for the filler, this is Nicaraguan, but unfortunately I don't have any more information on the particular varieties or regions that we use for blending the cigar. Here in my hand I have a 6x50 Toro, and here's an unsmoked one that I'm going to use to take a look at the look and feel. So it's available in a variety of different retolas. You have torpedoes, you have Coronas, you have Robustos, and you have Churchills as well. So the first thing is that the Gilberto Oliva Reserva, it does have a bit of a rustic appearance to it. While the overall shape is quite straight, you may encounter a couple of soft spots in the construction. Nevertheless, the spring is very firm. A little detail just to point out, this wasn't the case on this cigar, but there is a little bit of loose wrapper here. This could have been during transport, it wasn't necessarily caused by the construction, but it is just something in the attention to detail that stood out to me. In terms of its hue, it has a very cocoa powder colour. It's a little bit mottled, quite matte, a little bit of a sandpaper texture to it, but it does reveal a nice oily sheen. In terms of veins, like I said, it does have a rustic appearance, so there are a couple of veins that may be present down the body. As for the aromas, so what I listed down in the cigar formula was some tonka bean, some very rich gourmand flavours there, as well as cocoa powder, much like the colour of the wrapper, as well as olibanum or myrrh, which has a slight vanilla essence to it. When it comes to the Prelight, I found that the draw was a little bit firm in some of the cigars that I sampled. This wasn't always the case, but it certainly is the case of this one I'm smoking now. It does loosen up if you massage the end, and you could always use a little poker to loosen the draw as well. The flavours though are quite intriguing. You do have some cinnamon, a little bit of butterscotch, which is an intriguing change, as well as some sweet salted caramel. Moving on now to the overall palate. So this is quite an intriguing cigar. The flavour profile was somewhat unexpected. Well, in a way it was expected due to the use of an Indonesian Sumatra wrapper, but it isn't what you're kind of used to from the Oliva family. The cigar first opens with an intriguing burnt, grassy, almost algae note, which is quite overt and dominates the first third, which I found to be quite reminiscent of fried salicornia. There's a little hint of cereal, some malted barley, which is a little bit creamy as well as some dried earth, which is particularly noticeable on the retrohale. Once you move towards the second third, the fried salicornia algae flavours subside, instead reveal another sort of aromatic herbaceousness, which was sarsaparilla root, or at least it was for me. This was accompanied by buttercream, so the malted barley had then become much creamier, really evolved, and there's white pepper as an alternative to the dried earth. I found the second third to be much more palatable, much more pleasant, more balanced. And once I got into the final third, this tended to reveal some black pepper, charred oak, and a little bit of iron oxide, so a rusty metallic flavour as well. The final third was much more full-bodied than the second, but nevertheless, the transition was quite proportionate. As for the overall complexity of the cigar, I didn't find it to be too nuanced. It is quite easy to smoke, quite accessible, and you can easily make your way around its variety of notes, which, that being said, are quite unusual. As for the mouthfeel, there is some creaminess there in flavour, but the texture for me wasn't quite there. It wasn't coarse by any means, but it just felt at times a little bit flat. As for the astringents and palate stimulation, it did focus much more towards the front rather than the back of the palate. There was some sweetness and a little bit of dryness as well. I found myself reaching towards a bottle of mineral water just to keep my palate well quenched. In terms of the life cycle, now here's where the cigar really does shine. It's consistent in its notes, but it does have some distinctive evolution between each transitional period. Then when it comes to the finish isn't very lingering. It does stay on the palate for maybe a couple of minutes, but after that you do end up with a sort of bland tobacco-y flavour like you just smoked a cigar. I would recommend having an espresso after this just to cleanse the palate and maybe marry a couple of those fleeting flavours just to get the most out of it. When it comes to the overall burn, apart from the draw, which remained quite tight, especially in this cigar, it is exceptional. The burn line is razor sharp, and as you can see there's a slight bit of waviness, but none of this was touched up. This is exactly how it smokes. The temperature remains very, very cool throughout the whole experience, and the ash backbone is excellent to say the least. You have a nice white steely grey ash that doesn't break off very easily. The only reason I don't have any here is because I was particularly clumsy today and knocked it off. When it comes to the overall experience of the cigar, so the band from a distance, it does look quite ornate. It does have quite a distinctive Cuban vibe to it, especially with the gold crest in the middle and the typeface that's used. One thing that I find is a little bit of a shame is that the bottom is straight with this brown colour just to fit in Reserva. If Reserva was left in here, maybe then it could have been oval like the top of the band and had a more ornate finish to it, a little bit more regal and definitely latching onto those Cuban vibes that I imagine they were going for. The box is quite in a similar design, and it does also use some of those Cuban concepts, especially in that it's a cardboard box that has been covered in decals and stickers, so it's quite shiny and quite attractive. It's very functional, does the job quite nicely, but it doesn't give the best potential presentation. That's all probably because of the excellent value for money that it provides. This is indeed a very affordable and potentially great choice as an everyday cigar. The RRP for a Robusto is about $6. However, online you can get these at excellent and very advantageous prices. You could probably pick up a box of 20 for about $60, which makes each cigar just $3, which is an excellent daily smoke option. Given that it's quite an accessible, not overly complex cigar, it's something that you could easily smoke while doing other activities, such as smoking at a desk or driving a car. When it comes to the occasion of the cigar, it isn't overly versatile. You're not going to be able to take it to some very lavish and special occasions. You probably don't want to use it as a celebratory cigar. That being said, its affordability makes it a great option for weddings, especially if somebody isn't used to cigars. This isn't overpowering in any way, shape or form, so you could bring it along a box without burning a hole in your wallet. Nevertheless, I'd probably use it for multitasking, so if I'm doing other things like working, it's definitely a good cigar because it's not overly distracting. In the same sense, you could probably use it for playing golf. I'm not much of a golfer. I think Paul Anthony, the founder of Bespoke Unit, would be better to comment on that. Or you could just enjoy it around a barbecue with a couple of buddies. Finally, we're going to touch on the pairings of the cigar, which is unscored. It's just at the bottom right hand corner. First of all, I think, as I mentioned just a second ago, barbecues, grilled pork ribs would be a great choice with the cigar, especially if you marinate it with a nice sauce. It would really help bring out the flavours of the cigar, especially the algae side, the sarsaparilla rootiness. If you're going to use some aromatics in your marinade, that would be a great choice. Otherwise, I'd consider milk chocolate as opposed to dark chocolate. The milk chocolate, the creaminess, is going to help lubricate the palate a little bit more and tone down the dryness of the cigar. And finally, an apple walnut salad. This is actually an idea that was inspired by Reinhardt, who's another reviewer on Bespoke Unit. I think an apple walnut, because he tends to use some interesting pairings, but an apple walnut solid, the fruitiness and the refreshing aspect would help contrast and offset the cigar's dryness, while the walnut would then pair quite nicely with some of those more aromatic mineral flavors in this cigar. When it comes to beverages, I wouldn't really go for liquor in this case. Instead, I'd be tempted more by beer. Probably for me, a real ale, such as maybe a London Pride or a Bishop's Finger, or maybe even a Newcastle Brown Ale if that's your preference. Something along those lines, or maybe something quite hoppy. For example, a Castle Rock Harvest Pale, which is from my hometown in Nottingham. That would be a great choice as well. Alternatively, you could go for a German Pilsner. That would be very refreshing. That would stop the dryness from overwhelming you. Or alternatively, a cappuccino. That would bring out the creamy flavors in this cigar and make it quite an enjoyable experience as well. Overall, I rated the cigar 73 out of 100. That sounds very, very low, but we use a full 100-point scale, so for us, this is still a 4-star cigar. Given that it offers excellent value for money, despite it perhaps not having the best appearance, or perhaps some of the flavors being a little bit odd, or not overly complex, it is a great everyday smoke, and especially something that you should consider to fill up your humidor if you're just going to have something while you're out gardening or doing other activities. That's all from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, especially other men's lifestyle content that we cover. And head to Bespoke Unit until the next time. I'll see you then. Take care.